A large model Showman'S engine, part 23, steaming in the garden. I've been waiting for a nice day to steam the engine in the garden. I wanted a nice sunny, wind-free day without any rain. And yesterday ticked all the boxes for being a perfect day to steam the engine in the garden. I pushed it out onto the hard standing outside the workshop, and here it is ready to go. I'm pleased the way it looks with the natural sunlight on it. And I think you will agree it has been worth the repaint. It's looking good. Now all I have to do is light a fire in it. A couple of weeks ago I bought a pack of kindling wood. The boiler's half full of water, and this is a plastic tub with some white spirit in the bottom. I should really have used some paraffin for this job, but I didn't have any of that. In this clip I'm shoveling the wood into the firebox, and at this point I really wish the shovel was longer. After I'd put quite a lot of this kindling wood into the firebox, the last piece on the shovel I lit, and that set the whole thing alight. Normally I would use an electric blower or exhauster fan when starting a fire in a steam engine, but instead I fitted the extension chimney to increase the drafting. And after about half an hour, after fed in some coal, there was a very small amount of steam in the boiler, nothing showing on the pressure gauge and not enough to blow the whistle. After another 20 minutes or so, you can see that there's an increase in pressure. It's very slow though. With the drain cocks open, I opened the regulator just to warm up the cylinder. To my surprise, the engine ran quite well, and at this time the pressure gauge hadn't even started to move. It didn't move for quite a while. This is a shot of the driver's eye view. I find firing this engine to be quite difficult. You pull this rod that normally lays on the floor of the cab, and this lifts the firehole door open. Then with the shovel, which is a bit short, you try and find the firehole door to put some coal in, because it's quite dark in there. I bought a special light that sits in the bunker at the back to light up the cab so I can see what I'm doing. I've speeded up this clip because it took quite a long time to put all of this coal in the firebox. It's a large firebox. I'm not used to models of this size. Quite a lot of years ago I had a Stanier Black 5 in 7¼ inch gauge. This was standard gauge, so the boiler wasn't anywhere near as big as this. In this clip I'm having a look at the useful functions of this light that I bought. It really is surprisingly dark down by the firehole door. This very bright light makes it much easier to read the level on the water gauge. And the design of it means I can just clip it onto the side of the engine like this. A very good buy, I think. I'm quite pleased with it. After just over an hour I had some pressure. The gauge is showing just under 50 pounds per square inch. And at this pressure it's an ideal time to open the steam blower. This is situated between the cylinder and the chimney. With no control from the cab whatsoever, you have to go around the other side, open the blower and then come back to the driving position. The blower directs a jet of steam up the chimney to draw the fire, and after I opened the blower the pressure increased fairly quickly. I think I'll try the whistle again. Yes, that sounds quite nice, and that's not at full working pressure yet. With the regulator open slightly and the drain cocks open to clear the condensate from the cylinder, the engine ran very well, and in no time at all it ran beautifully at this speed. The model steam engines that I normally play with and work with are much smaller than this, so it seems almost unnatural for the engine to be able to run at this speed. And as I've only been test running this engine in the workshop on my painfully small compressor, just watching the engine running on steam was pure joy. And as soon as I shut the regulator, this happened. The safety valves blew off. I can't drive the engine because I don't have a suitable driving truck. But I'm on the case, I have the seat and the wheels. I just need someone to fabricate me a box structure to take an axle and a set of stirrups to fit on the engine. So for the moment I've connected the beautiful leather drive belt made by my friend Andrew Stone at Black Orchard Leather, and everything's looking and sounding very good. Notice how the sound changed when the engine was pumping water into the boiler. I'm pleased to say that my regulator extension handle is a total success. It's now much easier to move the regulator because I can reach it with my hand, and because of the leverage now on the regulator handle on the engine, it's much easier to move. When I was testing the electrical system and myself and my friend Andy rewired it entirely, I thought it would be a good idea to use 6-volt bulbs as they burn a bit brighter. But unfortunately, as I found out today, when I closed the switch on the generator, there's a considerable power surge and this blew all the bulbs. So I've changed them back to 12-volt bulbs now, and they seem to be okay. The 12-volt bulbs will absorb the power surge. The generator works very well and gives out 110 volts. It's time now to test the injector, and I'm struggling a bit with this. I opened the water valve to let water through it. I'll look into this in due course. No matter how many combinations I've tried of water regulation and steam regulation, only a couple of times did it try to kick in properly. The rest of the time it blew back. To hazard a guess as to the problem, I don't think the water flow is good. Something is restricting the water flow from the tank. I will look at that in due course. It's not a problem because the crankshaft driven pump works perfectly and allows me to pump water into the boiler when it's required. I'm going to leave the engine running for a while and stop talking. I'll be back shortly. The steam operated water lifter works very well, and it's filling the tank in no time at all. This is the water gauge on the bunker tank. I'm going to test the 12-volt lighting system. They don't look very bright, but they are actually bright enough. It's just that it's a very bright sunny day out there. This is how I start the engine without turning the flywheel into the correct position. I just open the regulator slightly and move the reversing lever forward and backwards. Time now to pump some water into the boiler. A simple job of moving the lever. And this lever, of course, is the water bypass valve, which is still dribbling, but never mind. At least I know when I see a dribble of water coming from it, it's pumping water into the boiler to remind me to turn it off before the water on the water gauge gets right to the top. The pressure's now dropping because I haven't put any coal on for quite a while. I'm going to let the fire die down. I actually dropped the fire in the workshop because this makes a mess, and it's easier to sweep up the mess in the workshop on the concrete floor than on all the gravel outside. And while the ashpan and grate is cooling, I thought it would be a good idea to use my meter and test to see how many bulbs blew. And yes, every one of the 6-volt bulbs was blown. So much for that idea. Hopefully the 12-volt bulbs should be fine. Time to blow down the boiler. With a copper boiler you can actually leave water in it, and this is a copper boiler, but no, I'm going to blow it down. You must never blow down from a very high pressure, as this could cause stresses in the boiler you certainly don't want. This engine has quite a small blowdown valve, and it did seem to take quite a long time. The water you can see behind the engine isn't actually coming from the engine. I'm emptying a large blue water container, which I am thinking about using to make a water bowser for extended running on the road. I'm not sure yet though, it's really heavy when it's full of water. The grate took an extraordinarily long length of time to cool down. It's still untouchable. I lifted it onto the bench using a pair of pliers. When it's cooled sufficiently, I'll refit the ashpan and the grate to the boiler. And that concludes the steam test. Successful, I think. I'd just like to say stay safe, stay well, thanks for watching, and I hope you found it useful. Please take the time to visit my main Steam Models website and click on the section of the website that says Video Playlists. And by doing that, you can find other videos that you may like to watch. And by using the playlists, you can actually watch the videos back to back, making it unnecessary to comment that the videos are too short.